And so they get trained in the fundamentals.
It sounds
mentioned
like
this before, not basics. There's no such thing as basics in wrestling. It's fundamentals. You do not need any more than that. But they're trained properly in them, not just a quick few weeks on them and then move on to the next thing. You are made to do them 1,000 times minimum, so you can do them from any angle, from any position, so you can keep going. You can go from one thing to the next without any separation. And just, it's nobody's fault. It just became less of that and more of structuring things and more of people. And in some, I stay out of the wrestling bubble.
You're out.
I'm out of it.
Lizards.
You know that.
It's you and the lizards.
You know that.
Yeah.
But
right.
the people who critique wrestling started like expecting more from people. And so now all of a sudden, instead of what would, Goodfellas or The Commitments or Raging Bull get in today from a critic who's
right
trying to, first of all, used to Marvel movies for the last 20 years and nothing but bang, 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 bang. Everything changes. Or if you're trying to keep a living, you've got to go with the times, whether you think it's good or bad. If you want people to actually read what you're writing, you're going to stick with the modern audience. Otherwise, you get no new subscribers. So I understand all this, and I understand that everybody's views are different. I used to go to PWG, right? The only time I've ever read wrestling reports was when I would go to PWG. And the reason being I used to read them is because, again, we might have mentioned this before, everybody else is looking from a seat up. I used to stand at eye level.
Yes. Yeah.
And I could see through the tricks. And if anybody asked me, I never went up to anybody, I'd say, maybe you want to work on that, because that trick will get exposed on TV. If you're looking up and you can't see the trick, I used to work, I started, my major career was at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in a cabaret room called the Horseshoe Show Bar. We could do wrestling from 12 o'clock midday till 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, we had to clean out because they changed the room up, took the ring down, changed the room up, and there was a magic show in there. I went to see this magic show called Mystique several times, and I was amazed. A guy called Russ Stevens, and he was a magic inventor. And I saw that show and I was amazed. I made the major mistake of one day when I was, 18 or whatever, going and looking at the props and then figuring out there was a hole in the stage, and figuring out if I actually saw from a different view that I could see the mirrors and the...
Right.
And I stopped looking. Nigel McGuinness is an expert magician. Whenever he shows me a trick, or whenever he did, I haven't seen him for a while, I've never once asked him how he did it, because I love close-up magic. I didn't want to know how he did it, because that, again, I learned that from Big Illusions watching it. It's all, everybody's different view of it. All the wrestlers have this thing of, well, back in my day, well, we did this. Yeah, well, now it's not that way, and you have to keep moving, and you have to do incredible things, and people do incredible things. I appreciate it all. I do like when you do your tricks well, or when you learned. I don't expect you to know that at the beginning, but think by the time you're a certain age, your length of the job, you should have figured your tricks out. Sometimes people get worse. I don't know how they do that, but it doesn't matter because again, in my brain, I go, actually, they figured. I applaud them because I go, actually, they've figured it out. They're not having to do any of the close up magic stuff because the audience loves them. That's all that matters. I've said this before, but we are an act, and it doesn't matter how good you are. It's connecting with either the people who are paying you or the audience.
Mhm.
That's all that matters.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You know, Matt, you're a music guy. Some people are the best musicians in the world and they can't put 200 people in a club. And some of the absolute worst can sell out every arena in the world.